In this video, we have a fantastic panel. We're talking about what could Walt Disney World improve to make the guest experience better, to make overall just things better. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to dip into the fandom a little bit, right? I know, George, we did a video the other day with Mr. Matthew Murr all the way from the UK, and we're going to dive maybe even a little deeper into that fandom today with you fellas. So thank you all for joining OG 55. Welcome everybody to OG 55. I just realized something. We're like the black shirt gang today. It's like, wow. So yeah, we called each other the night before. Hey guys, are we still doing it? Yeah, we're still doing it. Everyone wear a black shirt today.
But yeah, you have to think, OG. This isn't just any black shirt though. You
what
can't
is it?
see it.
It's
the OG.
It's the OG. The OG. Nice. So, George, if you could, Mr. Italiano, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on the podcast, A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Here we go. We're going to chime you in. You're officially in the house, George. Down below, it's been a little while, but we got Mr. Theme Park Casual back in the house. Now, everybody at home, I'm going to be linking his channel in the description below. He does fantastic vlogging over at Disneyland at Knott's, which we will be at Knott's this weekend, Sunday on Casual Channel. We're going to be, him and I at Knott's. Be a really, really good time. But Casual, thank you so much, brother, for coming on. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, all under the handle of Theme Park Casual.
Absolutely. And like I said, it'll be all down below. And check us out on Sunday. It's my first time back to Knott's since I was 10 years old. And I'm an old dude.
Can't wait.
It's going to be great. That was a long time ago. The soapbox racers were still operating when I was there. So Kingdom of the Dinosaurs was still there, to give you an idea how long it's been. So Slimer, welcome back on the channel, brother. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me back, OG. You can find me at the DMs right here on Orange Grove 55.
Yeah, absolutely. He's he don't really have social media, but he's always in the live chat and he's a mod actually for our channel. So check him out. And if you see him, reach out, say hi to Slimer. All right, so let's get the party started. Now, Slimer, I'll start with you because actually this was your topic idea. So I'll start with you to kind of set the table. If you want to go ahead and explain the topic at hand, and we'll kind of jump it off from there, sir.
Yeah, I mean, sure. So you know, we talk a lot about rides. We talk a lot about the newest attractions, the newest lands, and that's all great and all. But you know, something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, the more I go to the parks, and I think you guys over the Disneyland side also think about this as well. But you know, we get so involved with like the rides and the lands and hey, what's coming up next, and is this a good idea or a bad idea, or did Disney goof by putting this here or there, that we really lose track of the vacation destination concept, specifically of Walt Disney World, because it was initially established as a vacation destination. And OG, I sent you an email and I was just like, you know, it was like a top 10 list video idea. And I sent you the video and I was like, man, I was like, putting the vacation back in the Walt Disney World Resort, what would that look like? Are we still, is it still a vacation destination? First and foremost, let's go ahead and preface it with that question. What would that look like? What would that feel like? And has it, and if it's not a vacation destination anymore, in other words, are you going over there to relax? Or are you just going over there to hit every park as hard as you can? But you know, I think that's something worth discussing, especially for people that have been going for a long time, to try to get a baseline to see if that's still a thing. Is it still a vacation destination, or is it just turned into, you know, an attraction acropolis?
Well, and the interesting thing about this conversation, Slimer, I'm glad that you brought this up, because like there comes a point where, and I've said this many times with the Orlando theme park market, you have 4 theme parks and 2 water parks at Disney. That's just Disney. I mean, Disney alone is going to be a week plus for an average family. That's not even including now Universal, which is gaining popularity. So you have 2 theme parks and a water park, and going to be 3 theme parks and a water park very soon. So we're kind of getting to the point now with Orlando where it's like, realistically, can families do it all? We're kind of getting to the point where maybe not, right? So it might be in the best interest of a company like Disney to sort of pivot from a majority tourism approach to maybe doing a more locals approach, where it's like the locals kind of have the same kind of thing that we have here in Anaheim, right? Because if you're a tourist and you can't hit everything, maybe you focus on the locals. Maybe you can kind of do it that way. But what do you think, Casual? I mean, is this something that, like, do you think that Florida has sort of, are they sort of breaking away from the tourism model, or do you think they still want that, but they're doing it wrong, or where do you kind of stand with that?
I don't know. I haven't been to Florida in 20-something years, so it's tough for me to say, from firsthand experience. But from what I can see, it feels like everything is focused on the parks now, and the resorts. They're kind of stripping away what made the resorts their special little spots, like the Polynesian lobby gets changed over. There, any new buildings have the, what is the Gensler effect, or, and it's kind of making it to where the focus is so much on the parks that Disney World used to be that vacation destination because you could rent a boat for a little while and go out on the lake, and you can go shopping at what was downtown Disney, Pleasure Island. Mm-hmm. Now Disney Springs, you had all these different things to occupy a day if you didn't want to go to the parks. And Disneyland kind of has that same issue, but they're dealing with Southern California as the extraneous things to do. Because if you get tired, if you're spending a week in Southern California and you want to try to do Disneyland for an entire week, unless you're a big Disney and theme park aficionado, that's probably going to be too much. You're probably going to be kind of like, all right, I'm kind of tired of these crowds. I'm tired of waiting in lines. I don't want to spend another, $150 for us to get the Genie Plus to avoid some of these lines, even though those end up sometimes being lines in and of themselves. But then you've got to branch out and you're off property in Southern California. So I think what Disney World needs to do is kind of focus on rounding out that vacation for the people that are not going to just be going to the parks.
Right.
Water parks included. It's like get some other stuff to do. I remember watching, on VHS, that's how old I am, the vacation, planning videos. And there was, horseback riding and all these other things that you could do that made it seem like, wow, if I go to Disney World, I could do just about anything I want without ever leaving the property. And it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like it's parks.
Yeah, they've shifted the focus. And that's a shame, because when we went in July, my first time ever, it was a lot of the non-park stuff that really impressed me the most. I mean, I love like what you were talking about with the boats and the waterways and stuff. That stuff is really, that's what makes Walt Disney World,
And that's the problem with Walt Disney World, because they used to showcase everything, including the parks. Now the parks have become the frontal case that is the face of Walt Disney World. And even though all these activities, such as like the carriage rides, the horseback riding, the endless amount of activities that you could even find in Disney Springs, the different resort hotels, they get put on the back burner. They're still there, but Disney doesn't showcase them. And for someone like me who's been going to Walt Disney World for 25 years, I learned the ins and outs. But for a family that is novice to this whole thing and they're coming from Colorado and they don't know what they're doing, they're not going to know any of this stuff, because everything is associated with the theme parks. That people hear Walt Disney World, oh, it's a theme park. And actually, the even further novice people call it amusement parks. Oh, God. But it's to the fact that it's a vacation destination. It's a vacation kingdom. It's a resort complex. It's so it's a shame that a lot of things get missed, because I did take you when we went to Hollywood Studios. I said, I want to show you a little secret of mine. There's a hidden pathway a walkway that goes to the boardwalk that essentially connects to the beach club, the yacht club, and then essentially goes into Epcot. A lot of people may not know that, but it's there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah. I
that
know
kind of
you
stuff
brought
is
up.
really cool. What was that?
You brought up a really good point, which is that when you visited, the most interesting things were actually going around the park and not were actually inside of the theme parks as well. And that's by design, because when they designed that theme park, it was supposed to be very exploratory. And so they wanted you to use different modes of transportation. Remember the old Walt Disney World vacation destination videos from the 1970s and 80s at the Polynesian Resort? You used to be able to rent a boat, you used to be able to rent a kayak, and you could just cruise, like, hey, let's rent some kayaks and just go. Now, obviously, there's an alligator infestation there they discovered in a very unfortunate way, but they had different modes of exploring, and they encouraged it. They were in the advertisements themselves, and now they've been taken away, and even all the YouTube coverage is very hyper focused on the rides, the food. And while that's great, I mean, I'm not complaining, but it's intrinsic to a lot of and this ties into the fan base, right? So it all comes circle. It all ties into some of the the complaints that we might perceive as toxic when it comes to visiting the parks. Because if you're stressed out and you're not having a good time, it's really because Walt Disney World is not managing their parks as the way that it should be, which is to come and relax and have a good time, but also ride some attractions. And by bringing back a lot of those, those amenities, which are going to add to the relaxation of the resort, like Magical Express is probably the biggest example. And the thing is these are so much more cost effective than trying to build an entirely new land. I mean, all these different little, like George said, the horse riding. I mean, it's over there, but you don't see it anywhere on the Walt Disney World webpage. I mean, like, you got to find it at the very bottom. It's down there by, like, the agreement notice. But
yeah, it's like page 36, right?
Yeah, like page 36. But what's funny is this is all intrinsically tied to a lot of the complaints that people have when it comes specifically to the Walt Disney World experience. And I think that's really something to explore, and I'm glad you guys are entertaining this topic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting because, like, when I went back in July, it was like the Magical Express thing was a big issue for us. Like, right, George?
Yeah.
Because if we had the Magical Express, I probably wouldn't have cracked my head open. Actually, it was kind of like that thing where, because we were waiting around, and then it was kind of like we were just kind of in a hurry and stuff, and then ended up slipping and falling. But if we just had, because we were sitting literally in the area where the drop off was for Magical Express,
and it was so sad. I mean, because I've seen that many times, and it was so full of life, and there was like so much traffic of people going in and out, going in the different directions of the lines of which bus is going to take them to their specific resort. And like when we went down there, and that was the first time I actually got to see that in that aspect, it was like a ghost town, and I'm not used to seeing that, and it was so sad. You could hear a pin drop.
Well, and it's weird to me that Disney wouldn't. It's weird to me that Disney wouldn't. You would think that they would want to make it as easy and seamless as possible to get you from that airport to their property. Why would you get rid of that? Like, why would you get rid? It makes no sense. It really makes no sense. I still don't
understand it.
Yeah, I can only think that it was an operational nightmare for them to keep track of everything and just pay attention to all of it. But like you said, it was adding so much for the guest that's what we've come to expect of Disney. If there's a a pressure point or just something that's uncomfortable, Disney was the masters of figuring out a way to alleviate that. And it feels, seeing something like the Magical Express go away, it feels like they're not caring enough to relieve those pressure points anymore.
It's a shame.
Which basically you just described my lower sciatic.
Exactly, George. Exactly. But
you need to go on Matterhorn. It's a good chiropractic experience right there. And so even with that, Disney cares.
There you go. You got to uncrack your back, George. You got to uncrack your back. Yeah, no, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. And I think that Magical Express thing plays into what Slimer was saying earlier too, with the kind of de-emphasizing the tourism market, right? And sort of like creating this element where it's like, because that was very much a part of that resort element where it would take you from the airport to this. and by removing that, it changed the dynamic completely. And now, do you guys think that the reservation system, I know they've been pulling back on that reservation system quite a bit at Walt Disney World. Do you think that is also kind of affecting the situation over there with tourism and what have you, or not so much? What do you think?
Well, I can only talk from a local standpoint, and the reservation system. Here's where it becomes a problem. So we try to go see who was it? There's Journey of Water. They're actually doing an annual pass preview this last weekend, and I didn't book it early enough, so they want my chance to go see the Journey of Water annual preview pass, and that's all due to the reservation system. Had it not been there, I would have had access to go see Boyz II Men. Not that it's a big deal, but Boyz II Men for free at Epcot, you try to jump on something like that, especially if it's like a band you listened to back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
But I think for locals, it's not so much of a big deal. At least for the people that I know, I can only imagine that, like George said, like if you don't know the ins and outs of the place, then the reservation is going to be an issue. But again, it ties into the vacation aspect. Like if you have to, if your cognitive gears have to turn more in order for this vacation to happen, then the vacation concept is no longer built into the experience. And so, yeah, I hope it's a slow rollout. Hopefully they finish it sooner than later. And, I hope like these things, and what's funny is if they announced Magical Express, getting rid of the reservation system, a new monorail update, and then, overlaying a lot of the older parts of Walt Disney World, like Ticket and Transportation Center, the World of Nature Pavilion. Because God, that Living with the Land Pavilion Living with the Land Pavilion. I mean, it looks like something out of Logan's Run. It's so old, but if they did some small things like that, I'm telling you guys, most of the Disney fan base, especially people that have a lot of constructive criticisms, would completely forgive them if they didn't announce this major, massive new land. I mean, there's so much of bringing that back just would yield so much forgiveness, especially from your Walt Disney guards, because it shows that they're trying to make things right and turn Walt Disney World into a vacation destination where you can go and not just experience the attractions, but to explore and relax as well, which is what the entire place is built for.
And that's the frustrating thing too, Slimer, with Disney, is that we're in this community, right? Pretty heavy. And we see it. We can all point to things where we can go, if you just do that, you're good. Like the Villains Land thing. Yeah. It's such an easy win. Like, just green light that thing and just build it. Like, it's not, they're like overthinking this stuff, right? It's like, do they not listen to do they not watch any YouTube? Do they not go on X or Twitter and see this stuff? Like, it's not that complicated. Like you said, just bring the monorail, just get new monorails. That alone.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of funny, because actually Casual and I were having this conversation last night, and it was just like, you used the term, what was it, like they have their hand on like the pulse or something. It's like they're waiting for I don't know what. It's like just hit the button, and it's something so simple. It's like, were you not in the auditorium at the D23 Expo when us fans went completely nuts when you mentioned a Villains Land? It's like it's not rocket science. And Slimer, I'm sorry, now every time that I walk into the Land Pavilion, now all I'm going to think is Logan's Run. It's like it's
dude. I mean, what's the problem with that pavilion is they have a buffet in there, and it just causes this massive crowd of people that have nowhere to go because everybody's trying to get to Soarin' and Living with the Land. And then, oh, by the way, there's a buffet here, and that land. They just need to put some dynamic vegetation in there, make it into like a land pavilion, get rid of the buffet. I mean, you have World Showcase. We have all the food you want. There's no reason to have a buffet in there.
When I walked in there for the first time, it was like just it was chaos in there. Like it's a shit show.
It's a shit show. And then earlier this year, they wanted to put an annual pass holder lounge in there. And when you got there, they gave you almost expired M&Ms. Ask me how I know.
Oh my God. Did you eat those almost expired M&Ms, Slimer?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, I did.
How was the experience afterwards?
Tied in with a VH copy of Logan's Run.
Right. It's funny. Oh man, I'm telling you, that's wild. And I was actually really surprised. The Living with the Land actually had a decent line. It wasn't like a huge wait, But I was glad to see it though. The line was decent, and I was surprised because the edutainment thing is not really like hot right now. You know, like all the families want to go on the Frozen ride or this, that, and the other, right?
It is if you're urgent for a cucumber.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So that's interesting. Now, it's weird because so what do you guys think? Okay, we talked about monorails. When do you think? Because we haven't heard anything about this. I mean, do you think this is realistically going to happen anytime soon? What do you think, George? Like with these new monorails?
Well, I mentioned this before we started recording, and a lot of people tend to say, you know, Disneyland gets the updates of the monorail. Why can't Walt Disney World do so? And Disneyland's monorail was always used and is still used as a theme park attraction. It's used as transportation, but it's more so heavily used as an enjoyment just to go take a ride. Where Walt Disney World's monorails are completely only used for transportation. And there have been a lot of issues with the monorails over the years where if they were to have to go down for refurbishment, they're going to be down, or even replacement, they're going to be down for a long period of time. And this is also including the track, not just the monorail vehicles themselves. And with the amount of people that is staying in the resorts, the hotel resorts, that they use those monorails for the transportation to and from the parks or what have you, it's a constant run of a commute, especially if you're staying at the Loop around Magic Kingdom, or if you're staying at the Polynesian, or if you're staying at the Contemporary or the Grand Floridian. They heavily use those monorails to go back and forth from the Magic Kingdom or to Epcot and what have you. So to have them completely out of commission, that's going to alter a lot of the operation of Walt Disney World, and especially not so happy guests that are paying an arm and a leg each night for these hotels to stay on property and not use the transportation. However, at some point, they're going to have to address the monorails because sooner or later, you know, God forbid, something's going to go down where, you know, and Disney has already gone through so many legal legalities and lawsuits and everything. They need to nip it in the butt before something more drastically happens, which has happened before. But
what I think they need to do, if they bring online new monorails, you obviously couldn't bring the whole system down at once. You would have to go one by one. So, or you wouldn't even have to really take the monorail down, though, to be honest, because you could just build new monorails off site, and when they're ready, you bring them online, right? But the track was a different story, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But you'd have to like slow roll this out, obviously. Like any new monorail would have to be like over like the course of like maybe 7 or 8 years, and you'd get like 1 or 2 new ones. You get another 1 or 2 the next couple of years. It would be a slow roll. I mean, they're going to have to do this. I mean, eventually. Now, I will say this though, for all the talk on like Twitter and like social media about how bad the monorails are, I was actually kind of surprised at how bad they didn't seem when I was there. I don't know. They didn't seem like they were, unless maybe because I'm new to it, so it's still kind of like fresh. Maybe if you're there all the time,
you're new.
Yeah, you're new to it. Dude, those doors open automatically while they're moving sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
really?
never happened to me, but there's probably this year alone, you probably find about 2 or 3 reports of those doors opening automatically. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's wild. See, because I was only there. See, that's the thing. I was only there for like 10 days. Where if you're a local, you're there all the time. You're gonna notice this stuff a lot more. I didn't notice any of that. But then again, I was only there for a few days, so that's probably why.
And they smell like diapers in there too.
They do. Okay. So you're not the only one who's noticed that. Okay.
Yeah, they smell like diapers.
Okay. Now, is it just me? The monorail and the Carousel of Progress. It smells like. And forgive me because I love the Carousel of Progress. It's one of my favorite attractions. But I'm sorry, I walk in there and it smells like a mixture of a gymnasium and a men's bathroom that has like 10 urinals that haven't been cleaned.
That's funny. I missed that too. I didn't get that smell at all, George. Okay, I'll say this. It does have a smell. It smelled musty. It did smell musty, but kind of like the musty that you get with like our Pirates of the Caribbean or like the older stuff at Disneyland, that old school must. I kind of felt like that. But that's fascinating, dude. That's fascinating. Well, I mean, maybe they should update that one soon too. We'll see.
If any
I don't
attraction is going to have an old musty smell, you'd think it'd be the Hall of Presidents.
right, I know, right? Exactly. So, okay, so we're obviously there's a lot of stuff here at Walt Disney World. I mean, a lot to address with this, and this isn't even covering the stuff that like for the parks themselves. I mean, like the parks need work too. Like Animal Kingdom needs more attractions, more stuff to do. Hollywood Studios needs a lot more. It's a lot of work. I mean, Disney World in and of itself. I hope the $60 billion that they're allocating for the parks in the next 10 years. I hope a lot of that does go to Disney World because it seems like there's a lot there that needs to be done. I don't know, and hopefully it gets taken care of.
I agree with you, and I think I hope a lot of it goes to those exterior experiences. The things around the parks themselves, because really that's what's gonna make a lot of the hardcore Walt Disney World fans really happy. I mean, Villains Land too, obviously, but
right.
But I think if they just did a Villains Land and did all the other things, the monorail, the ticket and transportation center, made the hotels a wealth of vacation experiences again, I think that the Disney fans would be very forgiving if they just didn't go all out on all the attractions and updating every ride and coming out with new lands. I think that overall people would probably be pretty happy about that.
No, I would agree with you. The reasonable fans would definitely be. I mean, there's always going to be some people that are
reasonable.
Like, yeah.
But look how fast the tickets sold out for Oogie Boogie Bash. I know that's over at Disneyland, but this event showcases heavily on the Disney villains. So, and they constantly add new villains as each season goes by. Every single party was sold out within one day. For the whole season, completely gone.
Wow, that's crazy.
Kaput.
Yep, I'm telling you, Boogie Bash. I was telling George when we were there not too long ago. I was surprised how busy it was at DCA because it wasn't like there. It's an upcharge event, so I know it sold out, but I didn't think it was gonna feel like a busy DCA day. I thought it would be a lot thinner, the crowds, than like a normal day, and it wasn't. It actually felt worse than a normal day. So that was interesting, Would you kind of agree with that, George? It felt a little busier than like kind of what even a normal DCA day
especially
would be?
Because I would compare it to the last two times I was there at Oogie Boogie Bash, and they were decent. There was people there, but I start to see that as each year goes on, it gets more and more crowded. Because it's like more people get to know it and know about it and showcase it, and it's like, okay, then it becomes more and more popular.
Yeah, it was fun. And not to digress too much, but casual, have you been to Oogie Boogie Bash yet?
I have not. I'm of the mindset that I can't bring myself to spend another $150+ for an after hours event that for me doesn't have a lot to interest me. I'm not big on the candy, which everybody talks about. I'm not big on, walking past a villain, even having the little interaction. I'm very awkward when it comes to the characters. So, if anything, it would be, YouTube gold of me sitting there trying to talk to the characters and making a complete fool out of myself. But the one thing I do want to see is Villains Grove. That is the only thing where I'm like dying to get to.
I'm telling you, casual. That is a literal. I even told George this when we're walking through. It's a literal work of art.
Yeah, even just from videos, I'm like, this is amazing. I can't imagine what it's like when you're there with the full sensory experience with the sounds and the feelings and all of that going on.
Like when we were going through there and all the villains, right? And we're going through there and all of a sudden you hear Brian Roberts' voice, but you can't see him. I was terrified, bro. I was kidding. No, but it's cool though, because the villains, they don't actually show the villains, that you just hear them, and there's like these little hints of them. So like Cheshire Cat, you'll kind of hear him in the background a little bit, and like Scar. I mean, it's just so masterfully done. Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, Slimer, you're a Walt Disney World guy. What's your Halloween party down there in Florida?
So my Halloween party that I like to go to is Hall of Scream over at Busch Gardens. I used to be a big Halloween Horror Nights guy. It's just gotten too overcrowded. I mean, every video you watch right now, I was watching PC Dev. He was over there recently. Tim Tracker. Everybody's going over there. They're just like, whoa, like the crowds are just insane this year. And I stopped going about I think about 5 years ago, the last year I went is when Ghostbusters was there, and I'm a big Ghostbusters fan. Obviously, my name's Slimer on the channel, right? I had to go to that one. It was amazing. I had a shit-eating grin on my face from edge to edge because Ghostbusters is just so classic. And me and my wife would look at each other and it's like, yeah, I think we're good. Like we had done about 10 at that point, and we're just like, yeah, I think we're good on this. And so we like to explore some of the smaller attraction. I'm not calling Busch Gardens a smaller attraction, but it is a higher quality attraction if you're looking for smaller crowds, being pulsed through the lines, more ambient atmosphere. For me, that's what adds to the scary, and that's what I'm paying for. I'm paying to get scared, not to get Congo lined, through a house. But I'll give it Halloween Horror Nights. They do have great budgets for their houses, man. I mean, you go down there, those Halloween Horror Night events, and each house looks like they pumped about $1 million in it. I actually saw, Theme Park Wizard and Vash were actually at Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood the other day, actually.
Recently. Yeah,
very recently.
Some of those things are like, I haven't been to Halloween Horror Nights, like probably not too long after I went to Knott's. I'm telling you, it's been a long time. Maybe a little bit after that. I was like a teenager, But I'd go back though. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what they do. I think I'd be more interested probably in the Scary Farm, the Knott's one, because I was watching Barry Place the other night. He was also with Vash actually, and they were going through it all, and it was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, because Knott's has that Western town, the ghost town.
Yeah.
And it really, and casual, you know all about, I mean, it really plays into that. Like, really
it's fantastic. And I don't think you're going to be able to get it. You can't create a scare zone the way they do with Ghost Town, because Ghost Town has the history of the buildings there, that there's just that underlying spookiness already built in, and you can't just create that.
Yeah.
Come over to my ex's house. Trust me, you'll be scared.
That's great. Yeah, it's different. It's different because Universal Studios Hollywood. It's way different, Slimer, than the parks you guys have over there. Like the Universal parks in Florida are like real parks. You know what I'm saying? And then like the Hollywood one we have is a lot of sound stages and like a tram tour and things like that, which is cool. Yeah. I like all that stuff, but it doesn't, like, it's harder to kind of dress that up and to make it like a believable thing, I think, compared to like a Knott's, which is more of a traditional park with these little like ghost town buildings and stuff. It just kind of fits better. The ambiance is better. But it's like a backstage already too. It just already exists. All they have to do is just roll out the fog and have the characters come out, and boom, they're done. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I'll check it out one day. I'll check out both of those and see what it's about. I don't know. What about you, George? Have you been to Halloween Horror Nights or any of those events, whether it be in Florida, California, any of them?
No, I've never done any of the other Halloween events or parties outside of Disney. I am curious about checking out other ones outside of Disney, like Universal. More so, I am even curious about Knott's Scary Farm.
Yeah.
Just to kind of see just like the overall of how they take the aesthetics of what's already within the park on a daily basis. And then they don't really have to do too much, as you said, just kind of just turn everything on and just like amp it up a bit, and it just adds that spooky effect to it.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Now let's pivot to our last and final topic. I did a video with you, George, and Matthew Murr about the fandom, and we'll talk a little bit about the fandom. I know, Slimer, you touched upon, you want to kind of talk about this. I think it's interesting to kind of break it down. But in that video, we were kind of talking about this kind of culture right now, where it's like, if you're too positive, you're a pixie duster. If you're too negative, it's big mouth bad. These kind of sides, right? And we were kind of talking in the video how, like, I think most of us have more in common than not, right? Like, we all love this stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like there's a lot of like teams now, right? Where it's like, oh, you're a shill, oh, you're a hater kind of thing. Like, Slimer, I'll start with you. Like, what's your vibe on this whole kind of like, what's the temperature in the room right now? Can we ever get beyond that? Can we ever just have honest conversations without accusing people of being pixie dusters and whatnot? Or are we kind of stuck with it because of internet?
Well, yeah. Well, the one thing I'd like to point out, and I think this is absolutely true, this is a very loud minority of people that actually enjoy the Walt Disney products. Okay, this is like the political far left and the political far right. They're a minority. They're loud though, and so when they come into a room, they take out all the air in it. I'd also like to point out that a lot of them actually have a lot of constructive criticism towards the company. And while we demonize them or agree with them, I think all of them have some valuable input. And that input, whether it be maybe for, it could have been phrased better, maybe in a better light. I think a lot of the intention is probably the same. So we're all feeling frustration with some choices that they're making. And OG, you said something, like we're all looking and going, hey, look, if you just do this, this is the solution. But this is a big ship, and big ships take a really long time to turn. We've said a lot of times, a lot of the films that they're coming out with now, I mean, these were in the shoot 2-3 years ago, and they're just rolling them out. So I think that the fandom, while we like to categorize them as pixie dusters and the anti-Disney crowd, I think a lot of that only exists on the internet, and we also have to remember that that's just the internet. This is the minority of the fans. Go to the parks. You see what most people really think, because they usually have smiles on their faces, especially if they're from out of town. It's their first time coming. They got that first time to Walt Disney World pin, and they love it. I mean, my mom, for example, she's been going to the park since the 1970s. She actually went to 1971. She doesn't care about any of this shit, And I think that's she's like, hey, I just love to be here. What do they have new? Awesome, let's go. And I think that's the majority of people, really, to be honest with you. And we're just the small, loud, very passionate crowd.
Right. And we're so deep into it, right? Like we do videos all the time on this stuff. We're on Twitter talking about it. So we're like so entrenched. So it seems like bigger than it really is. It casts a bigger shadow than it really is, Because the same thing, like George, when we were there at the parks and stuff, like not too long ago, it was like we were walking around. I think we were joking with each other. Like the parks were really busy at Disneyland Resort, like really busy, and we were like, we heard that this place was going out of business. I mean, it's all over the internet. This thing is like, it's every other day I'm hearing how bad it's packed. It's literally packed.
That's where social media plays a big part of this, because we're so wrapped up into utilizing it for positive things, but it also using it brings out the negative. And I feel like that a lot of people learned that algorithm through, like, even with vloggers. And when I say vloggers, I don't even mean just Disney vloggers, just vloggers in general, people who vlog in their house, or, at their vacation spot or their whatever, that they find ways to get people to click on their videos for the algorithm to basically make a career out of it, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But people then tend to use those videos kind of as like a clickbait. So it's everything
you're saying is 100% true.
So it's like you have a video and it says, Disney crashes and burns. And it's like you click on it, it's like, oh my God, this is the end of the Walt Disney Company. And the video has absolutely nothing to do with what the title says. But you go through and watch this whole entire video because you think at some point it's going to say something. It's like when you have People Magazine or, the
Inquirer.
Any kind Inquirer. That was the other one I was thinking of. It's like people don't pick these magazines up to listen to something positive. So it's like as social media grew, as YouTube grew, they kind of went from paper to digital, basically. So, and it's like it just became the norm. But it's true, Slimer. It's like when you go into these parks, you forget all about that. You're there to have fun. You're there to enjoy the moment, be in the ambiance of everything. And then it's like, then when you get back to reality, it's like you use social media and then it's like, oh, there's all the negativity again. So it's like you get the pros and the cons with it, unfortunately.
Well, it's frustrating because it's hard to decipher the reality of the situation when that is occurring. Because I want to know, what's going on, like realistically. But it's hard to decipher that because there's a lot of noise, right? Because like you said, there's a lot of grift on all sides, I mean, it's the internet. People are trying to make money. And by the way, I just want to say, by buy Bob Iger's book. This is the sponsor for this video. It's about $29.95. I'm kidding. I am totally kidding. No, but like in all honesty, like there is that, so there's that noise, but it's like when you get on, it's like you can't decipher like, okay, so the Walt Disney Company right now is not doing well. I mean, it's not. I mean, we can't pretend like it is. It went through the pandemic, and there's a lot of stuff going on at the Walt Disney Company, but it's hard to decipher just how bad it is, or if it's rebounding or not rebounding based on all the noise, because it's really hard to make out what's the real stuff and what's not the real stuff. And that's kind of the messed up thing with the internet, is that the truth gets lost in the noise, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And it's frustrating, especially for people like us who are passionate about this stuff and really want to know. I really want to know, is this company like, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's fascinating. What do you think, Casual, this whole conversation about fandom and all that good stuff?
Well, my view is people have always been people. You've always had the people that just fall in love with something and they can do no wrong. And then there's the people that are just like, oh, I hate them to high heaven. I can't wait for them to just, be gone. Mm-hmm. The internet basically made it to where you can hear all those people at the drop of a hat. They're all constantly talking about things. Yeah. Before it was, I don't know if you guys experienced it growing up. I was like the only person I knew who was way into Disneyland and theme parks.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't until I got to high school that I ran into somebody who was just as nuts about it. Nowadays, you can find thousands of people that like that, Mr. Toad is their favorite ride of all time. And you guys can have the Mr. Toad Wild Ride Club, and you've got thousands of people in it. That's how it goes. And to your point about the noise, for me, the funny thing is we never knew the truth. It was always being spun at us. It's just now we've got so many more people watching things, noticing things, being able to report on things, that the spin can't be as clean as it used to be.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Kevin.
It's like, so Disney releases something, somebody else releases something, the investors release that, somebody says that, and all of a sudden it's like, well, what is the truth? Before it used to be Disney said this. And because they were advertising in People Magazine, People Magazine was only going to put the fluff stories.
Yeah.
Now you've got citizen journalism that can come up and say, hey, I don't know, but did you guys notice this in the financial report?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, before there would be editors that are saying, if we run that, we're losing, the millions of dollars that Disney is going to be doing with our advertising. So we're not running that. Now you've got people that are doing it because it's like, hey, all I have to do is turn on my webcam, start talking, and hey, what do you know? I'm starting to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So it's a weird situation, but I don't think anything has really changed in the sense that, we used to know the truth and now it's hard to find the truth. I think before there was the spin and we were comfortable with it. And now that we actually have so many people that can dig into different things and have different skill sets to be able to do that, we're starting to find out, what? Everything we used to think was true probably isn't anymore. I'm sorry to, I don't know if that's a red pill or a black pill at this point, but yeah, exactly. But that's kind of how we have to treat the reality of the internet now. It's like you can't listen to one video and go, oh my God, that's the truth, and share it out and this is what happened. It's hey, this guy said this. What do you guys think? Let's talk about it a little bit more and dig in and oh well, this guy said this or this person said that and that. And you just got to kind of, maneuver through it and, try to find that balance to where it's like, okay, well, I see your point, but, I'm pretty sure the truth is somewhere in between that.
It's a great point. Yeah, it's interesting because the internet has brought an ugliness to the equation, but it's also brought something very beautiful. Like you kind of touched upon it, Casual, where we can all have these kind of like these chat like we are now, basically, right? Just a bunch of people talking and kind of bouncing ideas off each other. And that wasn't possible 30 years ago, like on this scale.
Right.
So that's kind of a beautiful thing, I remember like when I was a kid, I had the same problem you did, Casual. I mean, I was a Disneyland fan. I'd be in school and I'm like the only guy, and I would get teased a little bit. Like I'd have like the Disney like folder and stuff and all that, and there's nobody into that stuff, you know. I mean, it was like, but now you can find it anywhere on the internet, and you find your little niche, you know.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
it's like we've ventured into the postmodern Disney era.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. What do you think, George? When you were a kid, well, you're a '90s kid, right, George?
Yes. Yep.
So you had internet.
I was. Well, I had the. Well, I know you bring it up a lot of times, OG, but I also had the AOL dial-up. It was like that sort. You know, waiting a half hour just for the computer to turn on. But
Then your mom picks up the phone and you get disconnected,
and I'm like, oh, Mom! It's like, seriously.
The picture almost loaded.
Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But no, I was the same way. I was always a Disney fanatic. I was a Disney geek. And when I went to school, literally even into high school, elementary, middle, and high, I never could find anybody who shared the same common interest that I did of Disney. And it actually was social media. And that's where I have to give it its praise to the pro, because without social media, I would have never connected with any of you. You know,
exactly.
It's like it's social media brought these communities out, because I think a lot of people within their own city or their own state, they were trying to find people to share that common ground with of, hey, you know, I enjoy Disney. I love Disney, but I can't share these memories with. I can't share my thoughts and opinions on it. And it's like now, as Theme Park Casual said, you can literally just with one click of a button go on and create an entire group chat of something that you share a common interest with, from an attraction to a restaurant to a freaking popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
well, you know what's funny, and this is kind of funny. This kind of brings it back to the parks, but like the funny thing about, okay, so I recently discovered this, the Redwood Creek Challenge at DCA, right? They have like a Chip and Dale meet and greet in there. And it's like at like 3:00 in the afternoon on like the weekends. At least that's when I came across it, right? But there's this group of people that when I went there, there's a group of people there that were like Chip and Dale, like super fans. Okay. Like all these people like were there just for Chip and Dale, and they all had Chip and Dale merch. Like one girl had her purse covered in little Chip and Dale stuffed animals, just covered in them. And the other guy had the hat and the jacket and the whole thing. They were just this Chip and Dale fan club. And I'm like, this is crazy. And this could only happen on the internet, because they probably are on some news group or something, right? Or Twitter, or wherever. And they all decided, okay, well, that's the meet and greet at 3:00 at the Redwood Creek Challenge. Let's all meet there. And that's where they meet. And that's like this little fan club for Chip and Dale. So it's pretty funny. I don't know. So you guys ever want to check it out? It's the Redwood Creek Challenge. I think it's like 2 or 3:00 in the afternoon. They're always there. And it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. But
OG, if I can add one last thing real quick here, just a positive spin on the noise of the fandom on the internet.
Sure.
Pick your lane, pick what you like to talk about and go with it. You know, there's a lot of noise out there, and if you're paying attention to all of it, it can make you very neurotic. And there are neurotic people out there, and they want to absorb every single aspect and look under every rock and in every corner when it comes to Disney news. But one thing I like about this channel is that for the most part, I could say we've all pretty much picked a lane, and that's the brighter side and the enjoyment of the experience when we go to the theme parks and watch the films. And that's where I'm at when it comes to the Walt Disney Company. That's what I like to focus on. And there's a lot of negative stuff out there, and I'll do like George and I'll read the clickbait, but that's all it is. It's algorithm clickbait, or maybe they just enjoy talking about it, and that's fine too. Everybody has their personal preference, but I really prefer to look at the positive side of the theme parks and the films.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't mind addressing the negative, but I like to be kind of solution based. Like I get real frustrated, like if it's just negativity, but like there's no way out. Like right. I want to know, like, okay, we're in a shit position right now, but how are they going to get out of it though? Like I'm okay with that. But if it's like, oh, it's a shit position and there's no way out, then I get frustrated, It's like, oh man, what do we do,
And before you close us out, OG, speaking of a ship position, so okay, so you guys know me for many years that I speak my mind, I tell it like it is, I go balls to the wall. I'm a very positive person, but when something needs to be addressed, I like to come out and address it. So here I go. So we were talking this whole video about like different things, like what should change or what should come back or what would make the parks better or what have you. Okay, so Disney, I know you're listening, so I need you to pay attention, very, very intrigued with what I'm about to say here. So, Mr. Theme Park Casual was at Disney California Adventure the other day. And he made a post when he was at Lamplight Lounge that there was no bao buns on the menu anymore. And I'm thinking, no, he's joking. No. And then I see the picture of the menu, no bao buns. Disney, just one question. Why? Bring back the bao buns. I'm telling you, they were like one of the best appetizers at the Lamplight Lounge, and it's those small subtle things that, again, even though it's in the theme parks, but it's part of that experience that it draws you to say, you know what, I want to go to the Lamplight Lounge because they have these phenomenal dishes and these appetizers, and the bao buns were one of them.
Yes.
I don't get it. It's like, for me, like Ohana's with the noodles all over again.
Well, I know. And what do they have? What is Disney having against Asian food, by the way? Right? It's always the Asian food that gets targeted. That's so not cool. but in all seriousness, though, I think that maybe with the bao buns, is it something to do maybe with San Francisco opening? Like, do they? I haven't really explored like the food options over there. But do you think that maybe it's because they're offering those over there? I mean, that's just a theory. I don't know.
Now, if that's the case, and they move them over to San Francisco, and I don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. to make a reservation for Lamplight Lounge, then Disney, I forgive you.
Yeah, so I hope that's the case. But I doubt it, because I mean, the food quality at Lamplight way better than anything over there on the
Disney,
wharf,
I hope this is temporarily, of a decision that was made, but if not, please put them back on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely.
This fellow Italiano loves it. So
yeah, exactly. And if Chapek, if you're listening,
apologize for not being the ally that you needed me to be.
I'm blaming you, Chapek. I don't know if it was your idea or not, but I'm still blaming you. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We got Citrus George, we got Theme Park Casual, and Slammer. Fantastic panel. We had a lot of fun today. I'll start with you, Citrus George. If you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on the podcast, A Walk with Walt. And, of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And also check out the new Facebook page I am creating. It's the fan club for the lovers of the bao buns. So
there we go. Join the new Facebook group started by Citrus George. And down below, we got the one, the only Theme Park Casual. If you could let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Theme Park Casual. I will be live this Friday night at Disneyland. And then this coming Sunday, we will be live with the one and only OG55 for a first time back to Knott's Berry Farm in 20 some odd years. And then after that, I will be at Scary Farm that evening, and perhaps we can maybe see if OG can get a ticket and squeeze that time in to visit Scary Farm as well. We shall
do it, dude.
We shall see. Awesome.
And just really quick, I have to give it to Mr. Theme Park Casual that everyone watching, if you're not subscribed to his channel, please go do so. Check out his lives. He's a very dedicated person who, I mean, it really shows through his videos, and it definitely, when he does these lives, it makes you feel like you're actually right there with him, that he literally takes his time and literally guides you through wherever he's at, whether he's at Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm or what have you. So if you're not subscribed, you need to be. So definitely go check out Theme Park Casual's channel. Subscribe, notify, like, get those damn bao buns back.
and Casual loves ice cream. So if you watch his channel, send him a super chat so you can get some ice cream.
And
So-
we don't pixie dust it when we're at the parks, because we deal with all the 101 rides constantly. It seems it is just hilarious. I mean, just this last Saturday, we start the stream on the Disneyland Railroad, and we're sitting there, and I'm telling everybody we're going to get going in just a minute here, and then they tell us we have no idea when we're going to be going again, guys. So if you want to go ahead and get out, so we have to get out, and then we walk over to Thunder Mountain. Thunder Mountain is down. And it was just, and then we didn't get fireworks, and the Autopia said a 20-minute wait, and we were waiting like 40 minutes.
But here's the thing, though. That's my point. You're giving the guests the ultimate Disney fan experience.
Exactly. There we go. Yeah, the Autopia thing was weird. I was watching you guys. It was weird because the line didn't look that long, but you guys didn't move. It was just like you were just stuck there. I thought maybe it broke down or something, but that wasn't.
Yeah.
Case, I guess.
Yeah,
really weird.
I don't know how many times I've had that happen to me. I mean, I've started the stream where I'm in line for mission breakout, like 40 minutes before the stream starts, and it says a 60-minute wait, and I have to push the stream half an hour so that I don't have people just staring at me in line for an extra 30 minutes because they said,
You say it like it's a bad thing.
Well, I don't know. For some reason, people like to hang out with me. I would never come anywhere near me for that long. If I could get away from me, I would.
I tell you, Casual, you're a braver man than I am going on Mission Breakout. You know, when we went the other day for Boogie Bash, our amazing guide, the best CM of all time, Jackie, went with this guy, and I waited on the exit. I was like, I'm not going on that day. It's too crazy, man. My head doesn't feel right after that. I don't know.
It was also too Casual. I remember I was on your live when you were at Disneyland when you waited in line for Haunted Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
That line was crazy.
Yeah.
Like that one seemed like it took forever to get through.
Yeah,
and
we slid in right after fireworks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like that one seemed great. And honestly, I am glad that Disney is expanding out that queue. You know, whether, you know, what people think of the aesthetics of it or not, but I mean, it definitely needs it because it gets like so landlocked there. And it's like, you don't even know where the line begins and where it ends.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And last, but certainly not least, he has no social media, but his name is Slimer. Slimer, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on the channel, I guess.
You're going to find me on the channel. I'll be in the live chats with Theme Park Casual. He's mostly there. I'm mostly there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so that way you can catch every live video that comes out.
See, I love how cool and calm he says it. See, that's what happens when you don't have no social media. Like we're all like stressed out, and it's like we have to remember to say this, and this. And Slimer's like, hold my beer.
Oh my God. It's also smooth, man. It's all that Boys to Men you be listening to, I think, you know?
That's right.
Thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.